And we are live for another episode of First Strike. Before we start the show, we're going to plug our sponsor, FaceToFaceGames.com, the #1 place to get your Magic the Gathering singles. This week, we're doing the first part of a spring sale. Hundreds of cards are priced down, and that's going to be happening for the next week as well. We basically bought a lot of stuff from Magic Fest Calgary and other events, and now you guys get to benefit from having prices going down. So definitely check that out. Just go to FaceToFaceGames.com and click the first slider. Tonight, we got John, we got Derek, we got Elliot on his way. We possibly have Shaheen on his way as well, middle of the show. We've got a special guest, returning guest. We've got Matt Dilks in the house, someone that we've praised for his legacy prowess before. We've had him with legacy results, but we've seen him do well alongside Edgar at the SCG circuit. And now, if you check the SCG Tour leaderboard, he's #1 and the only person above 100 points. Welcome back to the show, Matt, and congratulations on being the #1 player on the SCG Tour right now.
Thanks a lot. Been pretty fortunate this season so far.
So you ended up playing the SCG Open and put up a strong finish, 3rd place with Amulet Titan. It seemed like the talk of the town was just Amulet Titan on Twitter. Everyone was talking about it. My old boy Brian Gottlieb basically referred to it as the best deck in the format. How long have you been playing that? That's a deck that we know like Edgar for, but how long have you been piloting it?
I actually, unlike Edgar, I didn't play it that much when Summer Bloom was legal. But I have played it basically since the first iteration of the Scout version. I've been playing it the entire time. Well, not the entire time, off and on. I've played other random Snapcaster Mage decks or Death Shadow or whatever, but primarily I've been playing Amulet since the inception of the Scout version.
And is that like the best version? Is there any, are there different versions out there right now?
Yeah, there's Scout with and without Serum Visions, and then there is Scoutless with Lotus Bloom would be the other, I guess, primary version of the deck.
Do you prefer your version strongly? Is there any reason behind your choice and what you and Edgar played?
In short, we think it's better, and that's
it. How did your like tournament go? What matchups did you face?
Well, I'm fortunate enough because of my leaderboard standings that I have 2 buys. So my first round, I had to play against another person very high up on the leaderboard, which is Dominic Harvey in the Amulet Mirror. And if anyone knows about the Amulet Mirror, it's awful, as you also see in my top 4 match too. It's once you get to a certain point, it's basically whoever casts the first Primeval Titan first wins. And that's it. There's not much else you can do about that. So I lost round 1, and from then on, I rattled off a bunch of wins all the way up to, I don't know, I think it was round 11 or 12 when I took my second loss, and then didn't lose again until top 4.
Derek, these results, I assume they matter to you. What did you think about them?
I think that not enough people are respecting Amulet as a deck. I think that these results are more of a, like, it shows how good the people playing the deck are playing the deck. I don't think the deck is actually better than the rest of the format, as Brian leads to believe, but I do think that the deck is tier 1. I just don't think it's better than Phoenix. I know Edgar has said very, very differing opinions, and he might have my neck for saying that, but that's just my opinion on it.
Do you expect people will pick it up at the Mythic Championship?
100%. I've played against Sam Pardee on Moto playing the deck. I've seen Matt Nass playing it on stream. I've seen, I think it's Lucas Berteau tweet about learning to play it with the help of Lizard42. I think his name is Julian Henry in real life. There's a lot of people. Canister's been testing with it. There's a lot of people picking up the deck, fiddling with it, trying to learn it. Because I think, just like we've noticed, everybody else on the planet is noticing, the Canadians destroyed the circuit with Amulet Titan, seemingly out of nowhere. But I think it's been one of the best kept secrets in the area, that it's just sort of crushing it. And if you know how to play it well, you'll win. So I do think it'll be, I want to say a large percentage, but not a large in like the grand scheme of things, more large in a bigger percentage than you would expect to show up, if that makes sense.
Matt, did you end up facing any Phoenix decks, and how do you think that matchup plays out?
Yep, I played against Phoenix only once, which was much lower compared to everyone else that we knew that played Amulet at the tournament this week. And it was on camera, so you can watch that match. It was against Kevin Jones. I ended up winning 2-0. He ended up taking he had a kind of a fork in the road in the match where he could have thought scoured me aggressively and tried to snag Titans or whatever. And I was able to edge out the win in game 1 and then just kind of steamroll him in game 2. I think the matchup is close. Phoenix needs a pretty good draw to race like a decent Amulet draw, but Phoenix just does it so much more consistently than Amulet does. It's especially better if Phoenix is not playing Gutshot. If Phoenix is playing Gutshot, it's really hard to win game 1. They just like get to Gutshot your snakes for free or whatever. But I think the matchup's pretty close. I think Phoenix is probably overall favored, but yeah, it's definitely a close matchup.
What do you think, Derek? Not close?
No, I think it's incredibly close, but I do think Phoenix is favored. I don't think it's more, I don't think it's 60-40. I think it's like 55-45. I've played, I have Mort on my computer. I've played Amulet around 70 times on Moto, and I think I'm like 56% against it. And that's against all versions. So you can sort of like take what you will from that data. But I think that that sort of supports my claim that Phoenix is better. I do think that it really depends on what version of Amulet you're playing. I feel a lot more favored against certain builds on Phoenix playing against Amulet than I do against others. But overall, I do think that Phoenix is slightly favored.
We had another friend of our show, Tarek Patel, ended up taking down the SCG Classic the same weekend with Izzet Phoenix. Derek, Matt talked about how Gutshot, and we've seen it completely fade away from lists, and we've seen Pyromancer Ascension as basically consensus at least 2 of in the main, and I think Tarek looks like from what I'm seeing, his main deck is very stock, keeping with the Crackling Drakes, 1 Snapcaster Mage, no random 1-ofs in his spell suite, and yeah, is your list looking sort of like that?
No, my list is very different from Tarek's. Probably like maybe 10 cards different. He has a different approach to the deck that I do. I think that Tarek's deck building is drastically different than my deck building, so it leads to his sort of like ideas of how the deck should be playing out. Like how it functions is different than mine. I do agree that the Gutshot is really good against Amulet. I think that it's just awful against the rest of the format. So I just never want to put that card in my 75. Because if I'm trying to play a meta, I'm not trying to play against Amulet. I think it's going to be maybe 5%. But I find normally just Lightning Bolt does the trick. I don't like Crackling Drake as much as I used to. The deck is super resource hungry. You can't really always rely on playing it on 4, let alone like trying to play it when you're in a really tight position. You just have these dead cards in your hand.
John, did any of the results pique your interest? Like maybe even like the Azorius Spirits deck that finished second to Tarek?
No, it's pretty much what I've been expecting here, and I think we're kind of seeing the metagame congeal into like the final state before PT London, with the exception of the Mulligan rule, obviously. What I think is scary about Phoenix is like a few factors here. One, that its power level is very high. Its bad matchups are never that bad if you have a nut draw potential. And the thing is, like, blue and red have a lot of good answers to a lot of things that may be hostile to the Phoenix deck. Like, for example, Tron, I found, was very structurally favored against Phoenix, for example. But, you know, as the deck list evolved, the Phoenix list played a few more Ceremonious Rejections and Blood Moons, and all of a sudden, like, that matchup was like, went from like favored for Tron to like even to like, I would argue, like uneven right now. And as I said, like, blue and red covers a lot of bases and all that. So I think the actual list for PT London, by with all these like pro teams working on it, I don't think it's final yet. I think it's close, but I think the top of the meta is like getting closer to just like being finalized, save for a surprise like PT London Mulligan rule driven deck like Cheerios or, you know, Goryo's Vengeance, for example,
or Electro Dominance. John, you were pretty happy with Dredge. Even after the tournament, you saw your friend top 8 with it, and we're not seeing any of it in this SCG. What do you think that means?
I think Amulet is particularly oppressive to play against for Dredge, and Star City Games, I think, has had historically a disproportionate amount of those guys at the top, especially at the top of the metagame. But I mean, like Oliver Tomichael, for example, is doing pretty well with it, and I think that the Phoenix matchup has gotten a lot harder with the Ascensions and like the flex spots being like 3 surgicals and like 2 traps and snapcasters, etc. So Dredges can certainly be like beaten with like these like ebbs and flows of these like flex spots being devoted to them rather than someone else. But I still think it's pretty powerful. I think you can have a plan against big mana. I think you can have a plan against Phoenix, and like you just like fold over a lot of the random stuff like in between. So I certainly think Dredge will be one of the most explored decks, at least for people testing London, if not for people that's actually going to London and playing it.
All right. I'm excited. Derek, I'm excited. I'm excited to see you crush with that deck. And is there anything more outside of just getting more games in for your modern prep?
I mean, it's really a lot more about nailing the metagame, I think, than anything at this point. I don't know how. I think it's Toby Hank, or I don't know how to pronounce it, came up with an article today on Channel Fireball about favorable matchups, and he has like a bunch of data in it, and he outlines 17 different decks. And I think the next step I'm going to try to do is try to pinpoint how much of those decks are going to be represented, how much I should be preparing for decks like Amulet, decks like Dredge, decks like Blue-White, and then like sort of try to predict how much other people are going to be trying to prepare for those decks also. So like if Blue-White's going to be main decking Rest in Peace or Relics like they are on Moto right now, like maybe Dredge will be on a down tick sort of thing. But for the most part, I'm fairly happy with my 75. I'm sure I could always change a couple things, but for the most part, it's watching the spoilers and watching the big modern events to find out the meta.
All right. Before I go to Matt, John, have you looked up any of the legacy format? Does it excite you? Are you looking at any lists and going, wonder if I can break something in this format?
I think it's hard to really truly break a eternal format like Legacy here. The closest we've gotten was like the Grixis Phoenix list, which came out pretty strong, and it had a lot of the strongest Legacy players like iterating and reiterating on it. And you know, it's become a mainstay in the tier 2, tier 3 space. For those who don't know, it's the Dark Ritual, Buried Alive, Cabal Therapy, and Arclight Phoenix sort of deck. It's like a Grixis mid-range deck with like discard and like unfair combo finish. I think the metagame is exceedingly fair right now. Like I've been playing a lot of Legacy, and the people have like agreed that there's a lot of Stoneblade, there's a lot of like 2-color Delver decks, there's a lot of Miracles, and there's just like a lot of like death and taxes, etc. So there's rumblings saying that Ant. FYI, there was a Legacy PTQ last weekend, and it was won by Ad Nauseam Tendrils over Sneak and Show. And there's a lot of rumblings of strong players in Legacy saying that Storm would be the best option right now, especially because in paper events, people generally like to play a disproportionate amount of fair Delver and Stoneblade decks, which Storm is very, very good against. As long as you can dodge Chalice and other combo decks like Reanimator, I think you'll be good. So that seems to be the direction where the metagame is going right now. Just be very prepared for fair matchups, especially for those people going to Niagara Falls in a few weeks.
Matt, is Niagara Falls on your schedule?
As of now, it is. I am feeling a little burnt out, and a lot of stuff coming up. I kind of don't want to play in a Grand Prix that doesn't really go anywhere for me. But I am probably going to play. Like 99% I'm going to play. So it's like 45 minutes away from me. So gotta play.
So we've seen you play when we had you on the show the first time, play lands, and if we look at your results, you're on Golgari Depths recently. Where are you at now? And did anything John just say make sense to you about people thinking Storm is a good choice?
There is definitely a vocal minority driven by one of his former teammates that Storm is the best deck in the format. I think it's an extremely good deck. It's really hard to pilot optimally, and you need the proper amount of reps if you're going to take it into a tournament. Plus, it gets a lot more represented on Magic Online than it does in paper because of the price factor, which is good for Storm players because they get to practice with the deck. But I doubt it will be that much of an uptick in paper unless the pros have decided like that's the way they want to go for Grand Prix. But they're not even showing up to Grand Prix anyway, so I don't know where the Storm's going to be at. It's definitely a great deck and an excellent choice if people choose for the Grand Prix.
Tell us about what the deck you've been playing and why you've been playing this deck.
Yeah, I've been playing Black-Green Depths. I don't even know how long it's since my Eternal Weekend top 8, which is basically close to when Deathrite Shaman was banned. I've been playing Black-Green. I just felt that lands was not in the same spot after the ban. It picked up a lot of rough matchups, rough splash hate from all the other fast decks, and I needed something different. And Black-Green has been treating me really well. I think I play it optimally. I think my build is like really good, if not the best build for it. Yeah, I think it's probably the best deck for me, but I wouldn't say it's the best deck in the format, no.
What would you say is the best?
It's almost impossible to say. I think Legacy is actually in a spot right now where there is actually no definitive best deck in the format, which is tough for metagaming. There's no top dog. Even in Modern, you have Phoenix and Dredge as your top dogs, so you can definitely say like that's what that is. But yeah, Legacy doesn't really have a top dog right now, which is making the format really wide open and kind of tough to prepare for.
John, I guess we're talking about your boy Cyrus Corman Gill, Mr. Storm there, who is putting out a lot of content, so definitely follow him as he is willing to post I think what he's playing and his sideboard guide on his Twitter page. What is Legacy Storm deck?
He also does stream a lot, and he's very good at explaining lines and thought process and interacting with the chat. So he's definitely a good one to follow if you like to learn about storming Legacy.
At Cyrus CG MTG. John, what have you been playing though in Legacy?
And Nauseam Tendrils. I was pretty. I've always wanted to play something like a combo control deck, despite my turn 2 degenerate kill tendencies in Modern. But there's no close equivalent. I think the closest one I would have liked was Twin, but rest in peace. I actually did play the Epic Storm, which is the more glass cannony of the two for a while. But watching Cyrus did inspire me to buy my Passing Flames and Dark Petitions, etc., and switch over to Ad Nauseam Tendrils. It's the learning curve is very steep, and every micro mistake is punishing. But it's been fun, and yeah, I think if you can pilot this, because like you can't really pick this deck up cold, but if you can pilot it, I think it's a pretty good choice. But yeah, that's what I've been jamming.
Matt, you said you were feeling a bit burned out, but what's do you have to stay on top? What's the goal with the SCG?
Yeah, I guess the goal is to top 3 this season. Obviously, I'm obviously in a good spot to do that, with a secondary goal with being just outside, and then you're really set up for the at-large slots at the end of the year. But for me, I really hope I make it, because the grind sucks. I hate that I have to go to IQs for 3 points. I hate that I have to fly to avoid a 10-hour drive to Richmond to play Standard that I don't even play. I'm just along for the ride at this point, and I'm gonna do my best with it.
Well, it's awesome. At least it's awesome to see all these familiar names at the top of the leaderboard, and I'm sure at least like there's people that you're grinding there with, I guess. We got Tarek at 84, Edgar at 69. Mentioned Dominic Harvey, who was #1. He's at 92 right now in 3rd place. So when's the next SCG for you then?
The next SCG, I'm not sure how many weeks it is, but it's Richmond. It's like release weekend Standard. It's the first weekend of Standard, but I don't think it's on the Pro Tour weekend. I have no idea how it works. I don't look at the date. I have a flight booked, but I just know I have to play release weekend Standard, and that's it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Matt. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your Legacy input and your experience with Amulet Titan. Like, seriously, really appreciate it. And good luck, and we hope that you hold on to the top 3 slot.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, so that was Matthew Dilks as Derek waves by. #1 on the SCG leaderboard right now, and it's kind of shocking to me. It's nice to see. John talked before the show was live. It's good to see Canadians there, and again, we mentioned on the show before, it wouldn't have even been possible for people to want to grind these over the GPs, but we're heading towards that direction. Hey, Elliot, what's up? Do you have any Modern or Legacy input? It's all yours. All yours.
I feel left out. I wanted to ask Dilks because I've been playing Black-Green in Legacy, the Black-Green Depths deck. I'm like pretty locked on it for the Grand Prix. I think it's like I played in the last Legacy tournament I played, which was the SCG. I felt really good. I felt like I could beat any deck that didn't have Swords to Plowshares in it. And then I got paired against a bunch of Swords to Plowshares decks. And it seems like those are like ticking up, but it's always impossible to know. Like looking at like MTG Goldfish for Legacy, which Goldfish never gives like the best idea of a metagame, but like the top deck is 6% or something. So I don't think you can really expect to play against any given deck more than once in a Legacy tournament. And there's only like 3 really good Swords to Plowshare decks anyway. So I'm feeling really good about Black-Green. It's going to be interesting to know. I know that like Legacy tends to have like a bunch of different like micro formats depending where you go in the world in general. Just like there's some places that just have like a bunch of Miracles players or a bunch of Storm players, that kind of thing. Just because I find personally that like Legacy players tend to just want to get other people into the game. It's really weird. I don't know why they want more people playing Magic, but they always just offer everyone a deck to play Legacy. So you end up with a bunch of people like like Cyrus for John saying like, here's my Legacy deck. I'll teach you how to play it. We're playing Storm today, buddy. And I obviously, my sarcasm in the past statement aside, I think it's really great. So I don't know how many people are going to travel from far and wide or what Legacy players are like in the area of Niagara Falls, but I'm hoping that they don't play Swords to Plowshares is what I'm getting at. I'm hoping to play against a bunch of like blue Grixis Delvers, some Grixis Controls, some Sultais, and I'm hoping to crush people with Mirror Age.
Sweet. Okay, we got my boy, eternal fan of the show, eternal guest of the show, Shaheen Surani in the house. Couldn't get you on when you got your GP top 8, but congratulations, my man. It actually makes me forget. What were we talking about that was missing from your resume? Like a Pro Tour top 8? Is that what we were talking about?
Oh no, it was the GP top 8. Oh, you mean like now, effective now?
Oh no, but before that. So that was that your first one?
I had a team one with BBD and Pascal, a couple scrubs. So, I mean, if you count that, but I didn't. If individual GP top 8 is so much different, obviously. So, yeah, I was missing, man. It was rough. That was a heavy burden. I would felt a little Mangucci-esque, if you will. I think he's all right now.
Yeah, he's more than all right. I even heard that he might have had all of his own action, which is sweet if true. You
know how hard I try to get action, man? I asked Gabe, I asked everyone, BBD, I asked the world. No one's giving that sweet action up. I know they're guaranteed money, but I was going to pay obscene amounts just to have. I have an itch. It's like gambling problem. So.
I mean, there's a few people you would have paid a little extra markup for. I'm sure that you thought was good. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
thanks for having me on. By the way, man. Number one fan of the show. I've been on since he came out 22 years ago or whatever.
Still strong. Still going strong. So you top 8 with Izzet Phoenix, and you're heading down to the Mythic Championship. Who are you working with? Are you working with anybody?
Yeah, I'm working with that young man right there, Mr. Derek, as well as the rest of the face-to-face team. It was really awesome. The GP finish allowed me to re-gold, so literally everyone else was qualified for all the Pro Tours except for me. So, I'm also, just because I shotgunned the team captain, have been kind of embarrassing not to go to the event. So that was awesome, and now I get to test, and been a little busy lately. And Modern's kind of, I don't want to say solved, but we're seeing new things here and there. But I feel like this is the tournament where it's going to be a limited. Your limited prowess is going to be the rewarding aspect of this. Maybe not so much of the Modern side, but I top 8 with Phoenix. Was pretty stoked about it. Deck's busted. Probably not going to play at the Pro Tour. I don't mind saying that publicly. There's a little too many Celestial Colonnades floating around for me to run it back there. But it was definitely a good deck for the tournament. It was a good deck for those 2 weeks, because even though people knew it's the best deck, people were just still ill prepared and trying heinous responses to it, like multiple opponents bringing in Rest in Peace from the control side. People still getting Blood Moon, blindsided by Blood Moon when it's just common knowledge it's there. And you win so many matches. I mean, I played Black Green twice at a tournament. It's just so easy to get a basic out in time, but they take these lines of play that leave them just completely shields down and just get destroyed by it. Or control players that lose to a Spell Pierce plus Blood Moon. There's a lot of scenarios. But anyway, I think it's I think Modern's sweet right now. Even though Phoenix is everywhere, I think it's beatable, and I think you'll see that at the Pro Tour.
What do you mean by many Celestial Colonnades? Like that you're going to play them, or like that it's a bad matchup?
No, I'm feeling Celestial Colonnade. You know, it's like a bat signal. You know, got second of the Open, that Esper guy, but even before then, I was toying around with just traditional Control X, and I'm back. I'm back into back in love, if you will. The love's been the light has been shine on me, and I'm really excited to play Celestial Colony at a Pro Tour. I haven't done that before, so.
I mean, I'm excited. I mean, it was surprising. Obviously, it's always a surprise to see when you settle for something else like Izzet Phoenix or like Burn in an event, which you've done in the past.
Desperate times, man. I need an 11-4, and I wasn't confident. If I didn't go 11-4, my professional life probably ceased at that point. I would have to play. The chance of getting back on the Pro Tour was going to be just too much work for the amount of grind it requires. So I was like, let me test Phoenix for a month. I did, and at the Grand Prix, my only loss was to the Mirror day one, and then day two I went undefeated. Ely conceded me one of those rounds, but the deck is just so good. It rewards practice. So if you practice and get sharp at it, it's you get such an edge. I played the Mirror 7 times in that tournament, and my only other loss to it was in the top 8 where we kept a risky one. But he wrote about it. If you read Brian DeMar's Channel Fireball report, you have a chance to look at that a couple weeks ago. And if you didn't, he mentioned that he sat there for a second and thought about topping after a mulligan, and I immediately Island thought scoured him in the Mirror. And I mean, like, those kind of plays are small, like little niche plays, but like he kept a no lander and then just got blown out. So obviously like hit a land. So it's just little angles here and there you need to win with that deck. And I think that's where you see a lot of the frustration with Phoenix, where players will pick it up expecting it's the best deck, and it's so hard to play. Any deck with 12 blue cantrips and or 12 cantrips, Faithful Fluting, those kind of cards, you can't just pick those up and win with them. Those take a lot of elbow grease and practice.
Elliot mentions a fun fact that Esper deck that finished second somehow has 0 Colonnades, and its only creature land has 1 Tar Pit. Like, are you going to change that? I guess.
Did he have? I thought he had 1 Colonnade in there. Maybe he's updated. Like he had 1. Am I wrong? I thought he had 1.
I was looking at the list and I was losing my mind that he's just like not winning the game with Colonnade. There's 1 Tar Pit and 23 non-creature lands.
Oh, yikes. Well, his deck there's a lot of things that changed by that deck at a professional level. Star City's one thing. I mean, the tournament series is great, but if you want to take down a Mythic Championship, you got to make some alterations. 2 Kaya is too many. There's too many matches where the card is not good. There's, the mana base 24 land is in a deck with expensive planeswalkers and tapping out and expensive spells. You just can't play 24. You got to play 25 land. There's a few little things here and there. The deck, I always liked Esper, and I played the deck almost like identical to this minus the spell bomb, which is a real innovation they did. The 3 spell bombs main deck was really innovative. But the reason why it was falling short before is because Burn was around, and this deck would get just demolished by Burn. Like, I mean, if you can't play a deck with 5-6 shock lands, 3 Nihil spell bombs main deck, and then expect to beat that deck. And it's like I played Esper and was doing okay with Fatal Push, but I would get killed by Burn or get run over by similar decks that punish you for your mana base. More Blood Moon decks were out back then. So, but I think the deck's great. I think I'd make a few changes. I'd add probably the 25th land, make it probably another creature land. I cut the Kaya. I would make the deck just a little more lean with. I think I'm trying to. Let me pull his list up real quick. I know is he 3 opt? Was he playing some weird numbers there? I forgot. Let me see.
Yeah, 3 opt.
There's 3 opt.
Okay, yeah. I mean, just a few little strange things. I mean, I also commented he should have won. There's a few matches he should have won. I mean, obviously it's easy to say when you're watching, but there's a turn where he typed out for Kai, and if he's holding the gate, he just counters that hive mind. And there's a few other matches that or games I watched that I would have done differently. But I think this deck was primed for this tournament. I mean, Burn is on an absolute decline, and the only aggro deck, really, creature decks are like humans, which your removal is top notch against them. I think this deck has really put like a high ceiling. The third Teferi I would cut also. It's a few too many. I go down to 2 Esper Charm. Just to cut some of the clunkier cards just to make it more lean. The extra land for those cards, the 4th Opt, and maybe maybe one more board sweep of some sort, maybe either a Settle or another Supreme Birdie. But I mean, he's on the right track. I mean, this is innovative. It was great, and it was fun to watch him. Good.
Elliot, did you see the Azorius Spirits deck that Tarek beat? Is it remotely playable, in your opinion?
Having not seen the specific deck, I would say no. I've seen like people play it in the past, and I mean, you're just like actively going out of your way to not play Collected Company at that point. In my opinion, it sounds like, you know, like there was a point in time where Bant Spirits like didn't play Aether Vial, so some of your starts were a little clunkier, but you recouped that by playing the Collected Companies. But at this point, people are just playing both. So there's, and like the other version was the blue-white Spirits, which had Aether Vial for a bit more consistent power. You can't bolt Aether Vial, you can bolt Noble Hierarch. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the list now that Jonathan sent it to us, and this no offense to Alan Swan, this does not look good. Smuggler's Copter is not a modern power level card. Kira the Great Glass Spinner is just like, I don't know. I guess it trades with Arclight Phoenix in combat. That's what I have to say about that card.
It's just good memories for when we started the show, when this looked like the standard Smuggler's Copter deck that was dominating standard at one point.
Was it this show I said that card was not going to be good? It might have been this show. I forget. I say a lot of stupid things.
Smuggler's Copter? I don't. There's no way you said that. There's no way. There's no way.
No, it was on. I might have been on a different show. I was like, yeah, this card's gonna be a dud. But Gearhawks.
What? There's no way you're gonna say that.
I was like, buy Torrential Gearhawks. So they were like $6. At least I was right about that. That one I got.
50%'s pretty good. I'd say.
Not bad. That was egregious though. When one card is banned, I don't know if it's 50%.
Yeah.
It feels.
Yeah, it's egregious. Like I can't even believe that you would ever say that. Like I don't believe you ever had that take.
I mean,
I don't think you like Smuggler's Copter. So obviously,
what are you talking about? And you never know, man. You never know.
Are you stoked for like the new set has no impact on your prep, right? I don't even know how it works anymore, but
no, I actually didn't know this until last week when I posted a picture of a new card in chat in our chat that Derek's in. I'm like, dude, this card's gonna be in my deck. It's gonna be sweet. And they're like, you're stupid. You can't use new cards in the set. So,
ouch! Deflated balloon.
But it sucks too because I would play. Honestly, obviously Dovin's Veto is great in control. I'd play that. It would fix a lot of issues against like combo decks that have Pact Negation and just make your hard counter so much better. The new Teferi I think is modern playable. I don't know how many copies. I don't know in what shell it would go in, but I think it's. I mean, I used to pay a 5-mana premium for this ability. Like it's so underrated. Put your opponents on all sorcery speed stuff. It's really gross when in action, and people that are newer to the game don't realize it, but it creates a huge disadvantage. And there's some decks that can't even operate. Just picture like even in standard, if you like resolve it, just like Kai is good too in this situation. But resolve against mono blue, the current build of it. Think about what they can't do once you have Teferi resolve. Like their whole deck is just like shut off, done on your turn. But yeah, those two cards. I think there's another card I saw that. The new Karn looks modern playable too. That's not going to be popular to say. I like it in Control Shell. It's going to be a one-up for me. You can build because I already like a lot of bullet sideboard cards. I think that you can do some, not one of them in the main deck, but one of them in the sideboard. I would bring it in against a lot of different decks. Out there, kind of like a Stony Silence effect that actually is a win condition and more resilient in ways. and can get bullets out of the sideboard. Could be dead wrong about that, but it's interesting. I'm definitely going to try it out. But those are like the cards already that sparked my interest in Modern. But alas, none of them can be played. It doesn't matter. It's just going to be what I think you're going to see a Pro Tour of, or Mythic Championship of what you've seen already. Nothing too new, nothing too crazy. It's a bunch of players playing Phoenix and War Prison and other fun things.
Elliot, are any of the new cards exciting you?
There's a few of them where the first time I read them, I was really excited to play them in Standard, and then I thought about it some more, and they're like just kind of okay. The first one that comes to mind is like Solar Blaze. I thought that was like nuts, just giving like such an easily castable Wrath to the Jeskai deck. But then I realized that like Justice Strike's no good, so why would a Wrath of Justice Strikes be good? I'm not like disappointed with the set. I think there's a lot of really sweet cards, like Ral's Outburst, which is 4 mana for like Bolt plus. I'm not sure what the name of the card is. There's a card from like Shadows that has this effect. But you look at the top two, one goes to the graveyard, one goes to your hand. And I think that's like pretty powerful and maybe slots into the teamer deck because, the removal is kind of bad there and you usually have a ton of mana. I don't know. It's like some of it's sort of lame and some of it's just like mediocre planeswalkers. And I think it's going to be really interesting because we've spent so much time where planeswalkers are like either useless or sort of like the bee's knees in constructed. Like not very often is there a planeswalker that's like just okay in a constructed deck. They're historically just like a must kill sort of deal. So having some of the planeswalkers that are in this set in Standard is going to be really interesting. Really, really interesting to see how it affects removal spells as well. Typically when you have powerful planeswalkers in a format, cards like Hero's Downfall and Vraska's Contempt get better. And at other times you can afford to be playing more cheap removal that when the threats are just like creature specific. So this set's going to be really interesting in terms of how decks are going to be building the removal bases. Like is Sorin's Thirst or Moment of Craving, do you want more of that effect or Baffling End where you get to like save a mana or two because the planeswalkers don't really matter? So I think it's gonna be really interesting. This is like a whole new dynamic that Magic has never seen, like medium planeswalkers.
John, are you looking forward to experimenting with any cards that you've seen so far?
I'm not sure if there's anything that would fit right into my my wheelhouse here. I think Neoform is very interesting for Modern here. Now theoretically the Vizier Company decks can now forego Collected Company and Court of Calling and just go fully into Eldritch Evolution and Neoform here. There's cute synergy with a +1/+1 counter and Incubation Druid, as well as the Growth Guardian Chamber, as well as just going recurring the Neoform with Eternal Witness into a combo, etc. I think that's kind of interesting. The Edict obviously is a nice and welcome addition to Modern. It's been long awaited. I think there's like role players like Angrath Wrath, which interests me as well. Saheeli might be pretty good here as like a static young Pyromancer effect. The card I have the most interesting is Bolas's Citadel, which I don't think is going to be very good. But if it's going to be good, it's going to be, I think, in a Vintage and or Legacy Storm shell, both a bit differently. Certainly, the comparison to Ad Nauseam is pretty apt here. And if you're going to try to play this, it's a pretty busted-looking card if you can cast it in time. You probably want to add more zeros like Opals and maybe even Baubles, I don't know. And then, just have multiple empties and Tendrils of Agony and combo off that way. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work out, but it's certainly something that will be fun to brew with.
Last episode, Shaheen, we were asking Derek how he might prepare for the limited portion of the format, and he's saying like he's going to discuss with a bunch of people, go over some pick lists, and I joked that if he was gonna print a bunch of cards and make booster packs and stuff. What's gonna be your approach, my man?
In a different world, maybe I could do that. I'm just going to study the list and rank them myself, rank them with a team, memorize. What I like to do is, back in the day when I was, doing this the hard way, which this is going to be similar when Pro Tours are closer to the set, I would, just determine the amount of 3rd through 5th pick commons per color and then determine color strength that way, because I really like to determine color strength. The old ways would be based on the best commons in the set. Typically, if you have more common cards that are amazing in a color, that color is going to be better. Obviously, there's some outliers where you have uncommons that can sway it a little bit, but I consider those more like the tiebreaker. Unless, again, you're in a set that sucks, like creature sets that are tribal, which throw that all out the window. But typical normal sets have is common strength is really what drives it. So that's what I'm going to do personally. So I've been looking at these cards and keeping a mental registry of them. But with the team, what we did last time is we ranked them, we pulled it up, we organized it on MTGO. Now we'll just pull up pictures off whatever site and just put them in rank order, typical team stuff. But I know that this is going to be crazy. Limited portion because nobody's going to have the practice that they're accustomed to having. Very few teams are going to go out of their way and print cards and do that, but some will. I mean, some of the real hardcore teams that are there a couple weeks ahead of time. I don't think it's going to give them as much as an edge as it normally does when they prepare so hard. I'm kind of excited to go in blind-esque. It's going to be fun. And, like I said, if you determine common card strength and then whatever format synergies pretty early on, the practice is kind of secondary to that, I think.
Has there been any? Was there any WotC new stuff that you wanted to talk about?
Just gripes, but nothing too crazy. Just waiting on what's going to be Gold Pros situation. Silver Pros, obviously we're all probably just going to get wiped out.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll prefer they would make an announcement on it. Would be really nice. So right now we're all kind of just waiting in limbo. So it's frustrating for a multitude of reasons, but we're not the clients that they need to impress. We're not the drivers of the product. We're kind of like the in-betweeners, and that's the frustrating side. But outside of that, the game is really taking off. A lot of my friends all kind of poo-pooed on the Mythic Invitational. I thought it was awesome. True Magic fans said it's not Magic and it's wasn't real and it's not skill intensive and whatever. But those are all dumb arguments. It's actually really it's an entertainment piece. So we really shouldn't look at it from a analytical side of this is not Magic in its purest form. And so I think that they're making great moves for promotion, and this is actually the best promotion they've ever had ever. Not even close. I'm not even talking about Twitch watchers. I'm talking about just in general, a promotional event. This is just, it was, from the light show to the personalities to the stories behind each player. I mean, it felt like I was watching some, ESPN 3 or whatever, enjoying some side sport here and hearing the stories of players. So it had me pulled in, and I'm not sponsored. So this is not, and me, I've been on the show and I've been very critical of certain aspects of WotC. But this is lights out. Fantastic job, but so I guess that's my prop in the swap was what's going to happen to us, the people left behind.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to get axed.
Oh yeah, I mean I've been fired before. I can feel it. You feel the air is thick around it. It's also they're still bumbling around with the event schedule stuff. I don't know who's in charge of that. But we don't know when this weekend tournament's going to happen that I spent, 3 full days qualifying for Mythic Limited on Arena, and they said it's going to be the end of a month. But there's a GP that weekend I already have tickets for and an Airbnb. and I'm going to go to Providence. I'm teaming with Pete and Ely for that. The GP does nothing for me, but team events are awesome, so I'm going to go. And I bet you it's going to be that weekend. It's just so frustrating they can't keep their, act together. Just schedule these events non-conflicting. They need to figure out a way to do that. But I mean,
they made a statement that they're not like they're probably canning dual standard, right? I think I read that the other day.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, from a format perspective, it obviously was not the best format they could do. I was expecting before they made the announcement just to be a best of one fest without anything. I thought it was just going to be you have a clip of decks and you just pick whatever you want, and just go nuts. Like, I mean, it didn't really matter what they did. It was going to be fantastic to watch because of the ambiance that they created. Yeah, but duo standard is kind of a dumb. If you're looking at it from a really objective standpoint, it's not a great format, to promote. So yeah, I don't know what they can fill in that void, because I know that best of three is not. They want something beside that. They want something besides something that they want something quick and easy firing and shows off arena. And I don't think best of three is going to be their go-to for that.
Yeah, back to the scheduling a bit. Like Elliot was telling me, we're the Mythic Championship qualifiers, and I announced the dates for the one face-to-face games we're excited to have them. There's one in May, there's one in June, and we're likely going to announce the entry fee and the way it works later this week, I think, or maybe even next week. But it's kind of weird that we announced all these face-to-face games opened, and now they might conflict with some drivable MCQs, and we're getting close to May 11th. That's the Montreal one. That's really close. And even me, I just post the dates and when they happen. I have not really information when people ask me if they can play and stuff like that. I don't know what's going on, Elliot. You probably know more than me, and I'm behind the scenes here. What's going on? Is there any info? Have I not read something?
I don't know if they made an official announcement, but I think one of the early stores posting their schedule said that there's no requirement for entry, and people seem to have picked up on that. And I was reading somewhere that the next season has a Planeswalker point threshold, but this one doesn't. And I thought that was sort of weird, because they were also saying the threshold's 200 points, which is I think an FNM and a half, but I don't know. So I'm not really sure what's going on, but I think at this point they're kind of, you can show up to them if they're less than a month away and we don't have more details.
I really hope not. I'll just stay home. I'll just play on Moto. I don't know if you were playing, Elliot, when they had the biggest PTQ in Toronto. It was 430 people or something. Not many people know this story, but it was 10 rounds, and I drove in the car with a guy who top aided. Because it was sealed and it was twice as many people as they expected. It was just face-to-face Toronto that was running it, I think. Or it was just Kelly, I can't remember.
Yeah, it might have been Harry T's when Kelly was there.
It was Kelly who was running it anyways. They didn't have enough sealed product, so they had to get more sealed product from the store, bring it back. We had a delayed start. They didn't have enough judges to run the event. They didn't have enough people to make sure that all the deck lists were organized. So we started 2 hours late, and you had to build sealed deck, and there was 430 people. So then you have to do pairings. And so originally it was spaced for 250 people, and now it was almost double that. So they had to move a bunch of stuff. Anyways, the hall closed at 11, and they didn't finish round 10 until 11:30. So they registered their deck, gave it to the judges, and they played the top 8 in a Tim Hortons, which was a 5-minute walk away. And so me being in the car with somebody who top aided, we went to this Tim Hortons with the people in top 8 and with the people, the other people that drove the people in the top 8. And there was 30 people in this Tim Hortons watching this draft top 8 in a 430 person PTQ in Toronto on, I don't know, it was 1 a.m. on a Saturday or something. I was like, I would have been like 18 and I just thought this was normal. And then they're like, no. And I remember like my first PTQ I went to had like 110 people in it. And it was 6 rounds or something, or like 7 rounds. And I'm like, we can't do 10-round PTQs again. We just can't. It's just go back to the pre-TQ system.
Well, I think that 200 points, if that is the actual threshold, is like you get a PTQ that big anyway. And second of all, I think a lot of the PTQs I've been seeing scheduled have caps on them.
This
like,
is ridiculous.
At 200 something players. I think
this
that
is so stupid.
Having an uncapped tournament is ridiculous.
Having a cap tournament is ridiculous. Like, I don't know how badly you want to queue for the tour, but like I kind of want to queue pretty badly and stay on the train or whatever. If you have people who realize that their cap is like 400 people every single MCQ, they're just going to start charging hundreds of dollars, right? You're just going to have to pay more to get these spots because like these people, these companies are just going to have to buy bigger venues or buy more judges. You know what I mean? It's just going to get outrageous. There needs to be something else. Like maybe the pre-TQ system wasn't working, but this system isn't much better, you know?
I mean, this is just back to the old system, which was fine when Magic had a tenth of the players, but
yeah,
the world has changed, and we have, you know, we have caps on all the ones that they've announced for us too. They've announced a couple in our area, and they're 228 player caps or 226 or whatever. But you're right, it's messed up because there are people that really want to qualify for this, and this is your only shot. Your only shot is this one tournament on the East Coast for this 1 month or 2 month period. So it's not good.
We're really lucky. Like we live in Toronto. I remember a couple years ago we had 3 a season, 4 if you counted like Montreal, I think. Some places out west like Alberta, Edmonton, I think they get 1 for that entire region. Vancouver. I don't know what this is going to do to certain Magic communities because I know the pre-TQ system was certainly driving some of those smaller, maybe rural Magic communities. Like I don't know. Like we live in Toronto, we have a pretty good understanding of us having a bunch of PTQs in our area.
I'm pretty sure they're just scheduling just a load more PTQs than they used to, though, is the thing. Because I know about like at least 3 in New York. There's one in Montreal. There's a couple there's Toronto and Ottawa for Ontario. I think they're just like
but that's like normal. Like old seasons used to be 3 months or 4 months, and there'd be 2 in Toronto, 1 in Montreal, and sometimes 1 in Ottawa, and then there'd be like 1 in Buffalo, 1 in Rochester, and probably like 1 closer to New York, and then 1 closer to Jersey. Like that was normal. If you wanted to, you could hit 6 PTQs drivable distance from Toronto, like if you set 5 or 6 hours as your driving distance, right? But that was, I want to say, when was Born of the Gods? That was like 6 years ago, I want to say. Like if Magic has been growing every single year for the past 6 years, you have to assume that it's an amount of more people that are trying to qualify for the tour that like this won't be able to support it. Because to me, it doesn't seem like the MCQ numbers are changing that much.
Well, that's their solution. Their solution, I mean, it's a flawed solution. It's dumb, but it's the plan is to axe all the silver and gold players and now create the space on the Pro Tour and some for multiple MCQ winners. So I think that's their plan right now. If I were to guess, this is not public. This is just me guessing. Is you eliminate 100 or so typically qualified players from gold, silver, maybe not 100. It probably is 100. It's a lot. I know there were 60 gold pros last season, maybe. And then you count silver, and then the few plats that didn't make it into the MPL. That's 100 more spots they can give away to keep them. But they slipped up last year. They said last year, and I called them out on this, and then someone I forgot who tweeted back at me. They said that this was never said, but they did say this, that they wanted the MCs, the PTs, to be 200, 250 players. They wanted to be smaller. And that's when they announced having 10 of them per year or whatever the number is they came up with now. But I think you're right. They're going to have tons of demand. These events are going to be bustling. There's going to be just tons of players of these. They're going to be awful. Awful grinds finishing at 1 o'clock in the morning for one slot for MC. It's going to be, we're back to that again, which is, it's not good. The PPTQ system was better than the old system. And people that didn't like the PPTQ system were just old players that typically just complain anyway, and they wanted to be back in 1950 and drive their 10 hours and win their tournament, their 50-man PTQ tournament.
Yeah, I'm not. If that's the future of competitive Magic, I'm not excited for the grind. And like, I'm already on the grind. Like, I don't know how much worse it can get.
How, Elliot, has these places made public how much they're charging? Because I imagine that they can like I think Derek mentioned or one of you guys mentioned that they could be charging a pretty penny to enter any of these. I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't remember if there's any entry prices. I just remember that pretty much all of them seem to have like a cap around, like Shaheen was saying, 220 something. Like right around the cap for, I think that's the 9th round is if you get past that. So, at 8 rounds, I think is what it works out to. And not much more details past that. But I think there's 5 or 6 just, before the start of June that I could go to for Montreal. So I think there's way more than we used to get.
There's also one at every Grand Prix if you're counting those too, right?
Yeah. Well, 3 at every Grand Prix, right?
Yeah. 3 at every Grand Prix. Yeah, there's definitely more. They redistributed the gold and silver.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah,
at least that's what I've learned on this show. Go ahead, John.
I'm just curious. Do we know how to qualify or get into the MPL, and whether there's like a relegation system or anything like that? No.
They talked about it briefly in the last announcement they made for like what pro points are. Essentially, there's going to be a new leaderboard, and the points you get from MCs, which were previously PTs, and the points you get from the arena pro tours are going to add up, and then who's ever in, I think, top 32 of that is invited to the MPL the following year. At least that's what I understood from the article. It was pretty complicated and convoluted in my opinion. Like there's a lot of information that didn't make a whole lot of sense, and some more like, oh, we'll explain more later. Like when they changed the pro point system multiple different times the last couple of years, nobody knew what was going on. As far as I know, that's what's happening now, but I'm sure nobody else really knows what's going on.
It sounds to me like they've rendered the Grand Prix useless, other than just that Grand Prix weekend being like a glorified PTQ weekend.
Well, they're Magic Fests now.
Well, the weekend is Magic Fest. The event itself is GP.
I mean, like, I think that's the branding of it, though. It's much less like a big tournament for grinders to go to. It's a convention for people to celebrate Magic, show off cosplay, meet artists, and talk about different content production, so to speak. Maybe sell like I don't know if you've been to a convention, but you have just all sorts of different walks of life there. And I think that's what they're trying to create, but for Magic. And then they're trying to separate that line from their professional level esports. And I think they're trying to draw a line in the sand between like what we know as competitive Magic and esports actually, and say like sponsorships are important and esports teams are important and that sort of thing.
I was just laughing because I was imagining if MPL had like a People's Choice slot, and then John was fighting for it and campaigning for it. Like, why you should vote me into the MPL?
They're gonna have to have something special for an invite. I mean, they're gonna have to have some kind of maybe not People's Choice, but the top, because if they do it that way, laid out like Derek said in the article, then the top 32 currently have a 200% advantage on more than that, an undisclosable amount of advantage over everyone else because they're invited to all events. For them to be caught, it's going to be like 2 that fall off. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. In the way I would assume what Wizards is trying to create is they're not trying to they're not trying to cycle the MPL. They're trying to keep the same people in the MPL. What they're trying to do is also at the same time create basically people making their own content around Magic consistently to get themselves into the sphere of sponsorships and esports teams and content production companies. That way it just generates more talk and exposure around Magic, while like they still have these personalities at the top for the MPL. Because if you just have like 32 personalities, already you're kind of oversaturated with people. You know, like I don't watch every single one of the MPL people. I watch like maybe 2 or 3. And then you have them cycling every year. It's going to get very confusing and very convoluted. I think what they're trying to do, they're trying to make a gap so that other esports companies like, I know Tempo Storm has picked up some people, pick up competitive Magic players and put them on their team. So it sort of fills the gap of people playing Magic competitively or professionally. That way people are still creating content and can still play professionally like they are now.
Right.
That's just how I see it. I don't have any.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it sucks, but it makes sense.
I think that's what happens in other games also. You have the people who aren't necessarily on the top tier, like Cloud9 teams, so to speak, that are on like B team esports teams, just producing content, streaming, trying to get better, trying to get their name out there, trying to do promotions, that sort of thing. Much less actually being at the top of the game's elite.
They might have to create an outlet for a B squad for Magic, like some kind of, basically that's what Gold Pros were for the longest time. They're going to have to create something. Maybe it could be completely separate where you just get invited all the tournaments. They stage you as like a challenger every time, highlight, whatever they're calling B squad, beat LSD, big deal. I think they could easily pull it off, but they're I feel like it's just.
In my opinion, I don't think Wizards will even be. If that happens, I don't think Wizards will be doing it. I think it'll be a third party. I think it'll be like company Y invites you to this tournament on MTG Arena on this date. You've played the last 4 MCs. We want to sponsor you, or we want to put your name in there. You know what I mean? Like I don't think Wizards actually wants to be having anything to do with anybody other than the MPL. I think they just want third parties to cover it. And I think that saves them a lot of money, saves them a lot of hassle, saves them a lot of random problems that they've probably had in the past, saves them a lot of more announcements even. They don't have to announce announcements or keep track of all these pros. So, I don't know. I could be wrong, though.
I think the biggest problem for someone who in the role of a challenger to the MPL is not going to be, the amount of money they make from sponsorships and having a third party sponsor. I think the issue is going to be invites, which is why, like what Shaheen was saying, is you label this group as like the MPL challengers. They get invites to all the tournaments, so they just don't get the $75K a year salary. So once you make the challenger bracket or circuit, whatever you want to call it, then you get your third-party sponsorship. That's what pays the bills, and you have the invites to the tournament.
Right.
I think that's a good way to approach it. I also think that there's a decent chance the MPL just grows. We have 32 players right now, but the Invitational, which was like the first big event showcasing them, had like 4 times the viewership of any of the past Pro Tours. So, does that mean that the MPL grows 4 times as big? Probably not. But, can WotC leverage this additional ad revenue and extra eyeballs on Magic into 64 MPL spots? Maybe. And
I don't know about that.
64 is a lot closer to, the amount of support we saw previously for Magic Pros. I mean, there was like something like 80 or 90 gold and platinum pros total.
But
so having like a 64 is not that bad.
But it's like not just about the Mythic Invitational, right? Like, how many MPL streamers do you actually watch? I watch maybe 5, and the number 1 is Canister, and I was watching him before. Sometimes I watch BBD, sometimes I watch Huey, sometimes I watch Reed. I don't watch Jean-Emmanuel Deprez. I don't watch, but like most of the others, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't want to.
Spoiler alert, you're not watching the streamers who are not streaming in English.
No, but like go look at their numbers. Their numbers are so small.
Because they're not streaming in English.
No, like I'm talking like they were streaming in English. Their contract said that they had to stream partially in English. I'm pretty sure I heard one of them say that at one point. And I just don't think that you can justify another 32 players streaming to 50 people an hour for 75K a year. They're not growing the game. At a complete marketing numbers perspective, this makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, the Mythic Invitational got 100,000 viewers, whatever. I don't think it's because a lot of people were watching for the bottom 50% of the MPL.
It wouldn't be. They wouldn't be able to do a streaming part. They would have to do like the Vintage Super League. Like those get a lot of viewers. Like those little side things. It would have to be, instead of streaming, which is boring. It should be more like tournaments,
exhibition games.
Yeah, exhibition games. I think it has to be that format if they want to grow it. Because you're right, streaming is not the way to grow the game outside of the top 15 or 20 people. Like they have like 40, 50 viewers. Partially because, of course, like you said, Elliot said, it's not in English, which is an unfortunate reality that the majority of players around the world that observe this stuff are English speakers, but that's another issue.
I also think streaming is very difficult. I think most people are not built for streaming. Even watching some very good players play Magic, they're not built for streaming, even though they're speaking English as their first language. And that's not a slight. That's just the way it is. I've watched Reed play a bit, and I'm bored. Reed's one of the better players in the world, and I just can't focus on what he's doing because he's not entertaining. But I'll watch some, I don't know, like I like Deathsea. He's an interesting streamer because he's entertaining, but I don't think he plays particularly better than average. But like there's a lot of streamers like that are bigger on Arena, and you see their numbers. Their numbers are 10 times bigger than these professional Magic players who are the best in the world because they're entertaining. And I think we talked about this earlier. We are not the demographic that Wizards is targeting anymore. It's the people who are looking for these entertaining streamers, who are captivated by these entertaining streamers, not the Reed Dukes of the world. And so I'd be hard-pressed to believe that there's other incentives for more than 32 people to try to be competitive at this game currently.
They have to keep the dream alive for grinding, not for the viewers, but just for the actual boots on the ground. So I don't know. It doesn't have to be a great dream. It could be far-fetched. It could be reduced. But I still think they're going to have to fill a void for all the F&Mers where we all started, into the IQs where we moved into the PTQs, because that's that's millions of players worldwide.
Yeah,
that follow that train of growth there. So they're going to have something for that group. Right now, no one feels it because we haven't been fired yet. Our pink slip's in the mail. It's coming. All right. So at the end of the year, they're going to say no more. And then next year, people are going to say, okay, I won a PTQ. I'm qualified for this Pro Tour. How do I keep it up? And I hope that they have some answer for us. Besides, oh, you got to win another one. And the next one, you got to win another one. I hope they do something for us here.
Yeah, I think the desire for the dream is one of the biggest things that's always been driving competitive Magic. It's not actually the grind, because we've all been on the grind. It's not about the grind. It's about wanting.
How many players do you know personally go to every PTQ or PTQ and lose every single time, and they don't care? They might care, but they keep going. I know players have been playing for a decade and they've won 5 matches in their life. They'll still go. They'll drive 4 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say the people like me who are insane who keep going back to the PTQs, like gotta try to queue for the Pro Tour, but like it's actually the people who have won 5 matches over like 10 years. They're like, I just love playing Magic, you know.
They love it. They still think they can do it. They still have a dream to do it.
One
they
day,
host podcasts and.
I just want to be on the Pro Tour, but I don't want to improve.
It's a bigger demographic than it should be, but they're there.
They're taking away my PTQ spots. Those are the ones. We need to get them out of here.
Gonna wrap things up. I can't wait. If there's a challenger, well, looking forward to future 10-time challengers. Shaheen Surani still trying to get into the MPL, but
yeah, I'll be playing this game till I'm dead, so I'll be there.
But I did think about like what Derek said. Like if they did add more people in the NPL, it wouldn't be like these streamer contracts. I think they're gonna see what it looks like, what it does for them, and then maybe they'll tweak it for next time. I wonder if they could do, instead of just vintage super leads or random streams, if they could do some stuff like from the other games. Like I think I saw Smash Brothers where they invited a bunch of people into the same house and they like competed over different events over more than just a single day, so that people can because you need people to remember, the casual fan to remember people that have competed at the Mythic Invitational.
Are you talking about like Summit?
Yes, stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah, like that stuff's really sweet. And that's sort of what I was thinking about when I said like third party, like because that's somebody like has purchased that house, has produced all that content, and are basically like they're monetizing Twitch viewers and monetizing advertisements from that. And I think that is what's maybe it's 5 years from now, but that's what's next. It might not be a Magic house, it might not be that sort of thing, but maybe you see at the side of a Grand Prix Magic Fest, you have 100 computers, and it's the top 100 arena ladder players playing in this event, or these name pros sort of thing. I'm super excited. I hope that's where it goes.
Yeah, because I'm not interested even from a casual perspective to watch like a random NPL streamer stream arena like all the time. So like something like Summit, more interesting, probably builds more brand and adds more personality. It's something I would love to see. And yeah, that's my take. Okay, so any last words from you guys? John, anything from you? We're all good. Thank you, Shaheen, for coming on the show. You want to support the show, go to patreon.com/firststrike. And to get access to John's excellent Dredge guide. Still relevant, still good. Yeah, hopefully next week we're closing in on these guys playing at the Mythic Championship. And yeah, by next week we should have more information on the Mythic Championship qualifier. So that's what I'm excited about. And I will be revealing our exclusive spoiler on one of our Twitter accounts on Friday, because that's when we're signed. Shouts to Jen Krotz in the chat. I love Lincoln Park still. And we will see you all next week. Bye, everyone. Love you all.